Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you, some bits and pieces of mail for you on a dark, dreary, rainy day. The type of windblown rain that makes it impossible to stay dry when you're outside. You're being spritzed from all over. uh, Very wonderful weather to read inside, in the comfort of reading inside. Uh, if I sound a little different to you, it's because I have a weird kind of congestion going on. Don't know quite what it is. It's filling my throat with phlegm. It's lowering my voice. It's making the back of my throat intermittently a little scratchy. No other symptoms, so no idea how long it's going to last or what it's going to do. But we persevere, right? I have certainly persevered. On my fainting couch, I have done a ton of reading and a ton of writing. Feeling far worse. Besides, the mail was a distinct pick-me-up. Now, we've got a whole assortment of things to look at here. There are some books that I opened off camera. And in this case, it wasn't that I forgot about you. It was that I had the best reason in the world, which is that either my surly houseboy or I would find a lone orphan package on the porch, literally dripping wet. And when that happens, I don't want to sit the thing down and wait until I make a video. I want to open it right away and a chance of saving the book. Now, I did save the books in question here. And there is one package that I haven't opened because it was so small that the mail deliverer or whoever it was, UPS or whoever it was, stuck it into a covered mailbox. But first, we can deal with periodicals. I got a couple of lightweight periodicals this time around. I've mentioned on this channel that I have made sort of a quasi-mental decision that every subscription card that I get in the mail that isn't wildly off base. I don't want AARP, I don't want car and driver, I don't want anything like that. But if it's not wildly off base, then I'll just write the pittance of a check and get subscriptions rolling again. I was curious to do that not only to see what kinds of interesting new things I would get, but also to confirm or deny a hint of a suspicion that I had that these things are all managed by massive databases, and that if I do that enough times, if I do that 3 or 4 times in a short span of time, not only will I get more solicitations for magazines who've never heard from me before, but also I had a suspicion I would start to get magazines for which I have not subscribed. It's just part of these big combines. You start getting this magazine, the idea is that you start liking it, and then half a year down the road, you get a little envelope in the mail saying it's time to renew magazine X, Y, or Z, and you do it without even thinking. If I were in charge of one of those magazine hubs, those combines of multiple hundreds of titles, I would do that. I would be very sure to do that. I think that would work. The 2 magazines that I got this time around, saved them. They were also in the mailbox, so they were dry. Are trivial things. They're not exact bullseyes for me. The first one is Yankee Magazine. And this is just a big extra-sized square-bound holiday issue. Tons and tons of gifts. I haven't actually looked through this, but I'm hoping that it has all kinds of recommendations. So knickknacks, stocking stuffers, maybe even books. But Yankee Magazine, in addition to that, always has a couple of feature articles that I like. They're obviously in the market for buying freelance material. They don't, as far as I know, have a regular book section or a regular book editor. That would certainly be nice. But I don't think they have one. I don't think they pay a whole lot of attention to books. And, you know, if anybody at Yankee Magazine is listening, I want to stress that is a mistake. There aren't many of us readers, but we're everywhere. There's no way you can look at your demographic breakdown from your marketing department and hear them say you don't have any readers out there. No, there's no reason to dedicate any space to books. There's no way you can hear them say that and believe them. So, not that I'm auditioning for a job, but I'm sure that this will have stuff like that in it. And the same thing is true for this next one. It's Men's Health. I don't have much truck with Men's Health. There's Dave Bautista, Beast Raban on the cover, effectively the main villain of the new Dune movie. A lot of you have emailed me since my rabble-rousing review and told me not only that I was wrong, that the movie is doing well. The movie has done really, really well. Apparently Warner Brothers has already greenlit a sequel. They've already told this director that he can go ahead with making either the next volume in the series or the concluding volume in the series to finish filming Dune. Whether or not he can get the whole cast together, I don't know. That's the benefit of taking the Peter Jackson approach of filming all 3 movies at the same time, because you've got everybody there on set at the same time, and they're all visibly the same age from one installment to the next. if I were an odds maker in the cesspits of the Viper Room in Hollywood, I wouldn't put long odds on that entire cast still being alive in 2 years when you want to make a sequel. One name in particular, fairly high up on the list of stars, doesn't strike me as that he would live that long. But either way, it's great news for Dave Bautista because he's obviously in Men's Health, so he must be healthy, right? There's an article about him, a pro forma thing about him. But there are also in Men's Health, just like in Men's Journal and outside, the most laddie of lad mags. There'll again always be feature articles that are good. Always. Now, I haven't gone through this issue, although I found one at random. Timothy Caulfield does The Golden Age of Junk Science. And it's a nice long article. I imagine it will be very good to read. And at the beginning of this, there are always little bits and pieces on top snack foods that are healthy for you, top little gestures that you can do before, during, or after sex with your beloved or with a total stranger. I find a lot of those little listicles very interesting, although by far the most, they don't do it in this issue, I don't think, but by far the most interesting listicle of that kind that I always like is one about new tech. The latest tablets, the latest e-readers, the latest laptops, the latest whatever. I'm always fascinated by that, and that makes me think that what I really need to look for here, as long as I'm in the mood for magazines, what I really need to look for is one or a couple of magazines that are about new tech, that just rank and rate and review and talk about new tech. There must be a bunch of magazines like that out there. Do any of you know which ones are worth my time? Or should I just go to the gigantic newsstand at the Barnes & Noble here in Boston? I don't think that newsstand is long for the world. I don't think that Barnes & Noble will be here forever. I certainly think, I mean, this is 2021. It will certainly not be there at the end of this decade. But I wouldn't put money on the halfway point of this decade either. And that means that a big newsstand like that will be gone. There won't be any more of them in Boston. Maybe I should just browse that. But unless one of you maybe knows, is there, I don't know, I mean, a tech magazine that maybe doesn't devote 90% of its length to gaming tech? I mean, I'll read that if I have to, but I don't game. I don't have any interest in gaming. So if they devote a huge amount of their time to that, that probably wouldn't be worthwhile. But is there a magazine like devoted to laptops, to e-readers, to tablets? I'll have to look into that. So those two magazines are interesting. I mean, they're not bullseyes to my interest. They're not the London Review of Books or the New York Review of Books, but they're still interesting. And then we have mail. Now we'll go through the books that I already opened. When you've got Deluge Rain, there's really I really don't have any luxury of sitting on these things. The first two are part of a series that I want to bring to your attention because some of you are probably going to want the whole series. These two, I think I specifically requested, so they're kind of bullseyes to me, but they don't need to be. I mean, there's a whole bunch in the series. The series is Letters of Note. And let's see, do we have a list of Letters of Note? It was born in 2009 with the launch of lettersofnote.com. And it celebrates old-fashioned snail mail correspondence along themes. I don't know if this is going to tell me. Boy, it should. Yes, okay. These are small collections, paperback collections of letters along themes. There's been letters of note about love, about war, about music, about art, about mothers, about fathers. You may have seen some of them on this channel. And I got two just recently in the mail. The first one is Letters of Note, New York City, compiled by Sean Usher, and these are lovely things. They're floppy, they have deckled edges, they have French flaps. They're just lovely things. Each one of them will set you back $15, and the letters range for a century or more. To give you a broad range, some of them short, some of them not. Also, another feature here that I want to point out to you is that each letter is preceded by the exposition that you need to make sense of it. No footnotes. Instead, it's preceded by a little essay about that letter. This is all about New York City over the last century. Fascinating. And if that's fascinating for me, even more so is Letters of Note, Dogs. Also compiled by Sean Usher, also with the deckled edges, also with the French flaps. Just lovely. Just lovely. All about dogs over the years. I read one that maybe I'll read to you. Yes, T.H. White, the author of The Once and Future King, wrote to David Garnett, who has been the subject of 2 really good biographies. Everybody wrote to David Garnett, and they poured out their hearts to him. They didn't just talk to him about books, which was his specialty. He's been the subject of a couple of really good biographies that I have here at Hyde Cottage, as you would expect. And in 1944, T.H. White writes to him in November of 1944. It's not a long letter. I'll just read it to you because it's always a pleasure to read T.H. White, even on, as you'll see, a very sad subject. Dearest Bunny, Brownie died today. In all of her 14 years of life, I have only been away from her at night for 3 times. Once to visit England for 5 days, once to have my appendix out, and once for tonsils for 2 days. But I did go into Dublin about twice a year to buy books, 9 hours away. And I thought she understood about this. Today I went at 10, but the bloody devils had managed to kill her somehow when I got back at 7. She was in perfect health. I left her in my bed this morning, as it was an early start. Now I am writing with her dead head in my lap. I will sit up with her tonight, but tomorrow we must bury her. I don't know what to do after that. I'm only sitting up because of that thing about perhaps consciousness persisting a bit. She had been, to me, more perfect than anything else in all my life, and I have failed her at the end, and a 180 to 1 chance. If it had been the other day, I might have known that I had done my best. These fools here did not poison her. I will not believe that. But I could have done more. They kept rubbing her, they say. She looks quite alive. She was wife, mother, mistress, and child. Please forgive me for writing this distressing stuff, but it is helping me. Her little tired face cannot be helped. Please do not write to me at all about her for a very long time, but tell me if I ought to buy another or not, as I do not know what to think about anything. I might have lived another 30 years, which would be 2 dog lifetimes at this. But of course they hamper one very much when one loves them so desperately, and it is a problem. I am certain I am not going to kill myself about it, as I thought I might once. However, you will find this all very hysterical, so I may as well stop. I still expect to wake up and find it wasn't. She was all I had. I mean to stress here that the letters of note vary. They go from the heartfelt and the tragic to the funny and the trivial. They're just wonderful collections. I've seen a bunch of them before, but I'm glad to have these 2. Absolutely. Don't have any dates. There were no pub sheets in here, but they're finished copies, so they'll be here soon. And if you like little things like this, little items like this that range all over, that are perfect for dipping in and out, maybe perfect as stocking stuffers, there's a whole list of these things to get. Then the next one we got is that I opened was a novel. It's called Small World by Jonathan Everson. There you have a track running through wheat. Again, no sheet for this. Jonathan Everson's Small World is an epic novel for now. Set against such iconic backdrops as the California Gold Rush, the development of the Transcontinental Railroad, and the speeding train of modern-day strangers forced by fate, it is a grand entertainment that asks big questions. In exploring the passengers' lives and those of their ancestors more than a century before, Small World chronicles 170 years of American nation-building from numerous points of view across places and time. The characters of Small World connect in the most intriguing and meaningful ways, winning, breaking, and winning our hearts again. All done with a full-hearted, full-throttle pace that asks on the most human, intimate scale whether it is truly possible to meet and survive the choices posed and forced by the age. Not sure what that means by a novel for now. Everything that sounds like it's 100 years ago. The result is a historical epic with a Dickensian flair, a must-read novel that asks whether our nation has made good on its promises. It dazzles as its characters come to connect with one another through time. And it hits home as it probes our country's injustices, big and small, straight through to its deeply satisfying final words. So the Small World, I guess, would be a train. Even though it's not a train track on the cover. No, that's just a path through the wheat. And Jonathan Everson is the author of the novels All About Lulu, West of Here, The Revised Fundamentals of Caregiving, This Is Your Life, Harriet Chance, Lawn Boy, and Legends of the North Cascades. He lives with his wife and family in Washington State. So a big fat novel. This comes out in the middle of January. And then the next book that I opened was the package that I opened today. I'm sure that more mail is coming today, but this one was soaked, literally dripping through my fingers so I rushed it to the kitchen sink and thought, oh well, I sure hope that the book inside survives, and it did. But I'm not. Once I saw what it was, I wasn't all that concerned whether it survives because it's yet another copy of The First Shots. This is Brendan Burrell's nonfiction debut about the race to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. And it's a fascinating subject, and this book is on my docket to read really soon. I've dipped into it already. I already know that I like the approach the author's taking. But this is now the third copy of this thing that I have received. I have 3 copies of this. So not sure what's going on there, but on one level anyway, I'm very glad that it wasn't something new and precious that was maybe soaked, although this is dry as a bone. Book packages really hold up better than you think they will. And then there was an envelope from one of you that contained a heartfelt, touching letter, a letter that really made me think of me Sainted Ma, and really made me think about how lucky I am that we became friends in the final years of her life. Instead of just maintaining a mother-daughter, or mother-son relationship, I got all of that wrong. Wasn't father-son, wasn't mother-daughter. I got all of that wrong. It was mother-son relationship. Instead of maintaining a stereotypical but unexamined mother-son relationship, we became friends in her last years, and that was just wonderful. But the letter was incredibly heartfelt. If you're watching and you sent it, it really hit the spot. It really made me feel amazed. And the letter also included something, a little item that I just had to show you. That the sender of the letter crafted themselves. I get a lot of crafted knickknacks from a lot of you. I'm very, very grateful for that. It's a very caring and loving atmosphere that we have here. But when it comes to crafted articles in the mail, well, I think the bar has just been raised quite a bit. So some of you are going to have to up your game. I got this. Now, you might think, well, it's very nice. It's a padded, tasseled bookmark covered in dogs. And you might think, well, okay, it's very nice, but it doesn't really up the bar, does it? Well, that's because of this side. The other side is this. One of you actually crocheted or knitted or whatever that is, the Brattle will provide, into a bookmark. Those of you who have no idea what this means, that is a phrase that I have used for half a century to deal with the used bookstore here in Boston called the Brattle Bookshop, which has such a vast and constantly overturning stock of books that if I encounter a lack, so I'm reading a magazine or I'm reading a book review and I encounter the mention of a book and maybe it's new and I want it, or maybe it's old and I realize I don't have a copy, like Sink the Bismarck by C.S. Forster. I don't have a copy of Sink the Bismarck. Instead of rushing right away to eBay or Amazon Marketplace or wherever, I just sit back and say the Brattle will provide. Sooner or later, I will see it at the Brattle Bookshop, and I won't forget that I need it, and it will turn up. And now I have a bookmark that says that. Cannot thank the sender enough. But I don't think this is the only private sending thing, because I'm pretty sure that one book that we're going to open is from one of you. This doesn't strike me as coming from a publisher. So let's see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But let's see what we have here. Okay. Do we have a sheet of paper here? Huh. Okay. This is it's sent to me from the publisher, but this is a new book, I believe. Yeah, this is a 2021 release. Okay, well, let's take a look at it. This is The New Manifesto, a novel by Sam Ernst. With the manifesto on the cover is a Mobius strip, so it's going to go on for quite some length here. The New Manifesto is a book about writing the new manifesto. Metafiction, as it were. But it is also a made-up memoir, a future history, a dream journal, and an interactive adventure story. At times riotous, at times contemplative, The New Manifesto delights in mocking its own author as he tries in vain to escape his own voice. We used to think of himself as a fox, but it turns out he was a hedgehog all along. Oh my. All right. Uh, great. Fantastic. So the note from the author merely says, enjoy, and I will read this tonight. The one thing that I don't get here is whether or not this is out already, whether or not it's coming out soon. It's 2021 release, but I'm always up for stuff like this, always. So if you are, I assume this is independently published, right? Smith, Ralston, Excelsior. Yeah, I've never heard of it before, so I'm assuming this is either privately or subsidy published, a small press. In other words, something you might not see in your bookstore, but it sounds fascinating. So if you are a new author, or an author in this position, feel free to, I leave my email on every video. Feel free to contact me and send me your book. Even if I don't get around to reading it, or even if I get around to reading it and consider that out of mercy I should not review it or talk about it at all, you at least had this. You at least had it held up and talked about, shown to 10,000 readers. That's not a small thing. So feel free to do that, is what I'm saying. I highly encourage it. And that is it. That is a little heterogeneous mail here. We have The New Manifesto, a novel by Sam Ernst about writing the new manifesto, in which it appears like the manifesto itself is mocking poor Sam Ernst. Then we have the first shots. Yet again, this is the third shots. We have Small World by Jonathan Everson, in which a cast of characters meet and re-meet, apparently on a train. We shall see. It's next year. And we have two new additions to the Letters of Note series. One about New York City and one about dogs, in these lovely little paperbacks. Plus, a bookmark that I now want to use for every printed book that I ever read. The Brattle will provide. Not this week, it won't. The Brattle has outdoor sale lots. They're uncovered, they're open to the elements, and they are where I spend most of my time when I'm at the Brattle. You can get books for $1, $3, or $5. So, much like a delicate little flower deep in the forest, when it's raining, I close up. I only blossom when the weather is not inclement. Because when it's raining, the Brattle wheels in their carts and tarps over everything so that the sale cart isn't there anymore. I've lost track of how many times I've been browsing at the sale lot on a beautiful day and had out-of-town tourists walk by, look at the carts and say, what do they do when it rains? Like they've never heard of wheels or doors before. But it's going to be overcast and rainy for the rest of the week, so I don't think I'll be going to the Brattle. I have to bring this to show them when I do. But I don't think that I'll be going this week, so Brattle book hauls are going to have to wait until next week. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Sorry for the sepulchral voice. Maybe it sounds worse to my ears than it does to yours. That'd be nice. I'm pretty tedious to listen to anyway, without actually sounding physically worse. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.